Hello everyone, my name is Aryan Bhandari and this is Java course by DoCoNation. In previous session we learned about array and its methods. In this session we'll be moving on to object-oriented programming in Java and we'll see more about string as a class in Java. So first of all, uh, before starting with object-oriented programming, what is object-oriented programming and why do we need it? So there's a very famous example for that. So if you tell a child to just switch on the light bulb, he'll just go near the switchboard and he'll just switch on the light, right? Now, if you tell him that, or the electrical engineering behind it, he'll just say that it's enough, okay, I'm done with you, right? So, because he doesn't want to know the complexities behind what is happening before we switch on the light bulb, and therefore there are many users who doesn't want to know all the complexities. They just want their work to get done, right? So here object-oriented programming comes in. In object-oriented programming, we as a programmer hide the details and complexities from the user, and the user just only need to know how to interact with it. Starting with object-oriented programming, classes and objects are the fundamental blocks of any object-oriented programming. So what is a class? So class is a blueprint or template from which objects are created. Okay, so let's just take an example of a car and assume that it is a class, right? Now, car, if you go to a showroom and ask them to show you a car, okay, the first question they'll ask is which car are you talking about? Which brand car or which color? What type of car you want? So you cannot just tell that I want car, okay? So you have to specify, right? Once you specify the brands, colors, so these are the objects. Okay, so object is just a real world entity like chair, table, pen, or anything, right? And class is a group of similar objects, just like a car has brands, colors, right? So similarly, class is a group of similar objects. So let's just create our class, a new class over here, class car. And so whatever I'm going to write over here, I'm gonna declare over here like a model number. So this is known as field. Okay, so this is known as data members or field. Okay, now if I uh, write a method inside a class, public static void, let's just say start engine method to start the engine of the car. Okay, so this is known as method. So these are data members or fields, you can say, and these are methods of a class. Okay, so these are the properties of a car, right? Now I have a model number and a method of a car, okay, which is to start the car. So let me just write over here that car is starting. Okay. Now how to call this method inside my main method? So to use class and objects, here is the syntax. So I'm gonna write the class name and I'm gonna declare my own object name. I can write C1 or car1 or anything you find relatable. Okay, I'm gonna write c1 equals new. So new keyword initializes our object. Okay, so new car. So I have initialized like this. Okay, now using the object, okay, using this object I can call my model number, okay, or I can call my method. Now if I run, it's gonna say that car is starting, right? Similarly, I can call my field also, c1 dot model number, so 2019, right? So this is the basics of how to use classes and objects and how to call a method and field variables. So earlier we discussed about string as using as a primitive data type, but string actually is a class. Okay, so with primitive data types like integer, float, double, you cannot create objects for them because those are not classes. But string is a class and hence we can create objects of string, right? Although we can use string as a primitive data type because it has a special support in Java, but you can also declare string like this: string s equals new string, and you can pass the double value of string in double quotes like DoCoNation. Okay, so earlier we used to declare like this, right? We used to declare like this, but as string is a class, we can also declare it like this, right? And using this object, this is the object of my string class, and I can call many methods of string class, right? Before we move on to methods in string, let's discuss more about string. Okay, so string is immutable. Now what do I mean by that is that once you create a string, okay, and you try to change this string, so I have declared a string variable which has the value of docogen. Now if I change this variable to some other, let's say my name Aryan, okay, now this is, now Aryan is the value of var, but there is one more value of variable known as docogen in the memory. Okay, so it is not deleted from the memory, it is still there. Okay, so you did not change the there from the memory. That is why, so that is why string is immutable. Now let me show you one more example. So let me declare my string variable as docogen and my s, which is my another variable and which has the value of DoCoNation, right? So if I check these whether these are these equal. So if this is equal, I'm gonna say that strings are equal. Otherwise I'm gonna say that the strings are not equal. Okay, so what do you think the answer will be? Let me just run it. So answer is strings are not equal, right? Because you'll say obviously because this has docogen and this has doconation, right? So obviously it is different. So let me just write the same value over here also. Now if I run it again, it's again gonna say that strings are not equal. But as you can see, I have copied letter by letter and still it is saying that strings are not equal, because once you declare this way, your value is stored in a string pool area. Okay, and when you declare string using this way, your value is stored in a heap area. Okay, so we'll not go in deep, but I just wanted to tell you that when you want to compare two strings whether they are equal or not, so we will have a method of string, so we can use dot equals. Okay, and inside equals I'll pass my another string which I need to compare with my first string. Okay, so now let's just run it, and it's gonna say strings are equal, right? So this is the correct way of comparing two strings. So let's move on. Let's explore more methods in string. So one of the very used method of string is length. Okay. So if we need to find the length of the string, we just need to just say var dot length. Okay. Now if I run it, it's gonna print me the length. Okay, 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. Now we have one more method known as index of. Okay, so index of, now over here I need to pass a character. Okay, let me pass d. Okay, now if I run it, it's gonna print me 0, because in string also, as it is sequence of characters, we follow zero based indexing. So it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, right? So index of d is 0 and index of o will be 1. So I mean so index of o will be 1. Let me run it. It's giving me -1 because there is no capital O. Okay, let me write the small o, and if I run it, it's gonna give me 1. Okay, if I write C, it should give me 2. Okay, and so on. Now we have one more method known as char@, and now in char@, I will have to pass the index. So if I pass 0 index, that means print the character at 0th index. Okay, so 0th index we have D, so it should print D character, right? If I write 1, it should print my O character, right? If I write 2, it will print my C, right? And so on. Now we have one more method known as substring. So var dot substring. Now if I pass it as a, we have to pass a index, right? So including the second index, it will give me rest of the characters. So what is my second index? 0, 1, 2. So C is my second index, and including C, all these characters will be printed. Okay, let me just run it, right? So conation is printed. Fine. So if I use 3, so after third index, including the third index, all these characters will be printed. Let me run this again. So onation, right? Now if I write 5 over here, so it's gonna print from third index, including the third index, to 5 minus 1 index, right? So which is 4. So 3 to 4 it's gonna print. So this is 3, then 4. So if I run it, it's gonna print on. Now if I write 6, so from 3 to 6 minus 1, so 3 to 5. So from 3, 4, 5, so ONA it should print. I'm gonna run it again. It printed ONA. I would like you people to explore string methods by yourself, because string has got many methods, and you can also check the official documentation of Oracle. Here are some rules to declare class in Java, right? So as you can see, I have a public class named as Java05, okay, which is the name of my file also over here, right? So there can only be one public class whose name should be of the same file name, right? And inside this public class, my main method should be present. Okay, so as you can see, the next car, the class I have declared is not public, right? So it is just class and car, right? So you can declare as many as classes you want, but only one class will be public, and that class must contain a main method inside this to run the program. So before ending the session, I would like to tell you that what exactly happens when you compile a code in Java. Okay, so we have languages like interpreted languages like JavaScript, and we have compiled languages like C and C++, right? But Java is a hybrid language. Let me tell you how. So when you compile a Java file, so there is one more file generated known as class file. Okay, so if I just right click on it and go to the properties, and let me go to the source path. So if you go to the source path and you go to the folder which you have created, so over here you will find the Java file, right? So this is the file in which we coded. But there is one more file generated in the bin folder, right? So over here you can go to the bin folder, and the Java basics, as you can see, there are class files generated, right? So if you just open this class file, you'll find that you cannot read it because it is not human readable, right? So this is known as bytecode. So when a program is compiled in Java, the compiler converts that source code into bytecode. Okay, now this bytecode is again converted to machine readable language by interpreter. So you can use this bytecode which is already compiled in any machine which uses Java environment. Okay, so that's why Java is also known as platform independent. Now this is it for the session. See you in the next video.